Hi there, everybody. Glad you're joining me today. I know that the current events in the world have made what we're talking about maybe seem less important than it did before. Yeah, self-love is important in every time, obviously, because how can you know what your needs are and how to meet those needs in any situation that's going on in the world if you don't understand how to practice self-love? So today I'm hoping that through this little mini workshop that we're going to be doing relative to the course itself, that I can answer some of those burning questions you guys may have had or those sticking points you may have run into when you're doing the course. So I figure we should just dive right in, shall we?
I have struggled a lot with putting the energy of focused love into a cup of water and drinking it. It's like a big aspect of me knows how much this will benefit me. Yet I can't get myself to do it. I feel like it's aligned up until I go to focus that feeling state in the water, and then I just want to push it away. Any ideas?
Yeah, this is about resistance. This is about, there's a part of you that feels as if doing that particular exercise is going to lead you down a really negative path. So it's about doing parse work specifically with that aspect that doesn't want you to do that exercise and figuring out what that resistance is all about. I'll give you some examples of what that resistance might be about, but yet again, it's more important for you to be doing this on an individual level because these protector personalities, which are trying to keep you safe, all have their own very valid reason for doing so. But some examples for that would be, I've had people have issues with exercises if a part doesn't want to be disappointed, right? So I don't want this to not work, so I'm not going to put my energy into it at all, for example. Other parts think that the only way of surviving is to be in a state of self-hate, and that's the only way to keep your relationships with people around you. If you were scapegoated in childhood, this is going to be a real thing for you. Because the scapegoat in the family actually finds connection only through being the outcast in the group, and so self-hate is really the only way to belong. And so that part's trying to keep you safe and keep you close to the people around you, because as we all know, as a physical human, your single biggest security need is belonging and connection. So the only way that it's able to get belonging and connection is through self-hate. So whenever you do any of these exercises that would enable self-love, they're going to get in the way and have a real issue with that. So that's my answer.
Do you go through the course first fairly quick and then pick the tool that most speaks to you? I struggle to feel anything much with the Trojan horse module, so I have not moved on yet. Is it okay to keep going through the course if this happens?
Well, my intention was for people to move through the course getting good at whichever step they're in before they move to the next step. But if you're having this thing happen with that Trojan horse module where you're not really feeling any change or any difference, my preference for you would be to keep up that particular exercise because it doesn't take much effort. Even if you're not, by the way, if those of you who are struggling with this, focusing love or energy into a glass, there's an easier way to go about it, and that's to put the glass near positive messages. So let's say that there are affirmations on YouTube that you can just click on. If you set the glass of water next to that, or positive music, or even I know that there are binaural beats, for example, that are designed specifically for self-love and things like that. If you set the glass of water even near those frequencies and you still make it a practice of doing that when you move on, that would be my preference. Some of these exercises are ones that can't be 100% focused on when you're focusing on the next exercise, but this isn't one of them. And in the best case scenario, we would be layering it. So we do the first thing, we master it, and then we add. We do that second thing, we've mastered both, and so we add. It's not like a pick it up, now drop it, now pick it up, now drop it. And once you've mastered all of these tools, if you run into any of them that you can't do at the same time, you pick whichever one you feel like is the most important for your particular state at that moment. Kind of considering them all like a toolbox. That makes sense. Yes.
Here's a question about parts work. You say that everything is source, and so we have the potential of everything within us and are everything. However, you also said that by knowing what we don't want, we come to know what we are not, what source is not. How can we be everything while seeing the unwanted as something we are not? Please clear this out for me.
Okay, I'm glad you asked the question. The issue that we've got here is English semantics. I'm going to just preface this by telling you that teaching esoteric concepts is so hard. It is so hard because we're limited in terms of our vocabulary to explain exactly what's going on in the greater universe. The source itself has realized that it's creating everything, right? So it is infinite potentials, and us as a fractal of the greater source, or a fragment of source, we are also these infinite potentials. But source has essentially become aware that its desire to become self-aware has led it to the point where it realizes that anything that exists, it inherently has in it as a state of potential, and therefore it is creating everything that it is. Now, with that realization, it means that what you are is a choice, because you have all potentials within you. So it is all things by virtue of having all of those potentials within itself. But what it chooses to be, and therefore is a matter of choice. And this process of expansion that is happening within the universe at large, through wanted and unwanted, is teaching it what it wants to create and therefore be. Did that make sense? Woo! All right.
Could we also use the self-love frequency water bottle from your shop as another way to alter the frequency of the water?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I mean. Like, anything you expose water to dictates the way that water structurizes itself. And so it'll work with frequency paintings, it works with sounds, it works with intention. Like, literally anything that you expose to that water is going to influence the way that water structurizes, and therefore the overall frequency that it maintains. That's why it's just like not a super hard exercise. I mean, it's harder for people to focus love into a cup of water and then drink it than it is to just expose it to anything positive. And I kind of am a little bit mad at myself for giving you so many outs here because it definitely is telling and much more profound for you to see what it is to focus all of that loving energy that you have towards something into that water and then to drink it. But if you're really having a hard time, those are your training wheels.
This is a person that is having trouble with emotional vipassana leading to a downward spiral. I can go into it deeper if you'd like.
Yeah, you have to, because I don't understand.
So when they've sunk into the emotion, no matter how painful, they've found relief through healing, crying, CP, integration. I've sat in an emotion and sunk down into serious downward spiral without finding that relief or healing. I suspect it's because I have some serious resistance to the emotion that causes the spiral, or perhaps some identification with it. Some type of resistance, but what? I defiantly try and disidentify with it while also being in it. I've done it on my own and sometimes with a friend, though not as often with a trained CP, but yeah, painful emotions like fear, anger, depression, and helplessness. I sometimes sunk deep, then caused a week of horrible manifestations. Is this supposed to happen?
No. Do you want me to just go into what's happening? This is going to have to be a personal one.
Okay.
Well, all right, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to go straight into your perspective.
Guys, we're also going to take some questions off of the live, so feel free to put questions in there, in the comments.
Actually, the part of you that's creating so much of an interference here with the downward spirals is a part that does not actually want the improvement. So anytime there are other parts that are in this attitude of acceptance for that emotional state, what I'm seeing is that there are other parts that are like, nope, this is more real. You got to work on that one. Pain is more real. And I want somebody to be down here with me. That's another thing, too, that's making it hard. A lot of times when you've got friends, I don't know whether you're running into the same thing with trained CPs, but a lot of the people that you've got around you have got an attitude when you're going into these spirals of like their whole intention is to get you out of them, when certain parts want you to be basically down there in that hole together. So you've got parts that are wanting to maintain that low level to see who's going to stay there with you, and parts that don't want you to get happy at all. So they're not actually allowing that natural process of uplift. Whenever the relief actually comes, they get panicked about it and push you down or pull you down, depending on which side of that split we're talking about. So when you're doing parts work, you got to do it specifically with the part of you that wants to stay down in that space and wants people to prove that they will stay down in that space, regardless of whether you get better or not. and the parts that don't want you to go up because there's serious damage and risk and danger in enjoyment and happiness. Ooh, I would really look at that, by the way. How much trouble did you get in your childhood when things were going okay? Were expectations especially increased around you when things were going okay?
Do I have to love my body in order to have self-love? How can I accept that I think my body is disgusting? I feel like it's my biggest block to self-love, and no amount of exercise will get me the body that I want.
Well, so in situations like this, you have to treat your body itself like a part that's separate from you and figure out what that relationship is going to be looking like. If I were in a position that was as extreme as you are, I would definitely not be leading myself through that parts work. I would have somebody around me that's good at facilitating parts work to help me with that. But yes, to be in a state of complete self-love, that includes your body, because your body is a part of you, is it not? And more than that, if you are the universe, your body is a part of the universe. So I would approach it, if you were with me, that way. I would have you disidentify from the body as if the body's not you, so that you're sort of looking at it from an objective standpoint. And we would work with what your resistance to that is. And you'd also see the perspective of your body itself and how it's actually trying to serve you by being the way that it is. Most people who feel this level of disconnection from their body don't understand that the state their body has gone into, disgusting, right, is actually like a defense mechanism. Their body is trying to rescue them, and that's something that you don't really have enough awareness of yet in order to appreciate the length that it has gone to get you to where you are. For example, I have somebody in my life who, this is not necessarily your case, but I have somebody in my life who's got the same type of an issue. And every time we have gone into it, by the way, there are multiple layers there, usually with people that have this much resistance to their body. What we find is that her body manifested in a way that would be grotesque to keep her safe from molestation. So if she was as ugly as she could be, then Daddy wouldn't be doing what he was doing with her anymore. And so the body only alters itself or changes in this particular circumstance in conjunction with a person's degree of safety. How much safety do they feel? So obviously working through, it wouldn't be obvious to most people when all they're thinking about is how do I accept my body, the key to dissolving their resistance relative to their body is actually about developing a sense of safety, especially around men in this particular circumstance. So oftentimes when you're disidentifying from and dealing with your body as if it's its individual part and gaining consciousness by going into both of these parts, do you actually understand what that underlying condition is coming from, and therefore what to do around it, like the very, very nitty-gritty specifics for your particular circumstance.
How can I work to forgive the things that I did when I was unconscious? I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. My brain is constantly swimming in the waters of my own healing and the waters of my mistakes.
You're convinced that if you forgive yourself, if you let yourself off, you're going to do it again. There's this lack of self-trust inherent in your vibration. It's in the words, even when he was just reading them. So there's an attachment, actually, to never letting yourself off the hook, so you never do it again. So what is that self-distrust about? Don't you think the lesson's learned? Would the universe expect more from you than to realize something and shift it? Would you expect something more of somebody else? I would like you to ask yourself that question. If somebody else had done these things, what reparations would you expect from them? Would you want for them to have a miserable life? Would you want for them to beat themselves up? Would it be enough for you for them to just change and to admit to it? Would they have to pay some restitution? Like, whatever those answers are will guide you in terms of the next steps that you have to take. But you got to deal with that underlying sense that is on everything in your energy field of distrusting whether or not you're going to be able to actually stay in alignment with morality and conscience if you let yourself off. Yeah.
I'm currently doing the exercise of Module 1, Self-Hate. I find it very hard to stay in the aspect of me that is the most self-hating. I also have struggles to play the middle role, the guide, since I feel stuck and don't know how to find a middle way for both of these parts.
Then you're not getting it. So if that's the case, you're not actually getting into the middle self. What you're doing is you're getting into a part that wants to manage the entire experience and feels like it has to change everything. That's another part, actually. So this is I wouldn't say it's uncommon that when people start to do parts work, they have a part that's like a really intellectual manager type that is almost like confusing people that it is the core identity when it actually isn't. A lot of people who have, this is a big issue with psychologists, by the way. Psychologists love to think that their most rational self is actually their self when it's just another protection mechanism. So it's another part you're getting stuck in when you're switching to center point perspective. If you were with a good enough parts work practitioner, they would be able to recognize that, because it's a totally different feel. It's like a controlling type of a feel, and that's, if you get into a part that's like, I don't know what to do, or is in that controlling mechanism, then it's got an agenda, and that's definitely not that central self. So that's the first thing that needs to be said. So keep going with with everything else. I find it hard to start from the beginning.
Okay, so from the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently doing the exercise module 1 of self-hate. I find it very hard to stay in the aspect of me that is the most self-hating. I also have struggles to play the middle role, the guide, since I feel stuck and don't know how to find a middle way for both of these parts. I feel as if I lack awareness to come to a conclusion, and it makes me feel very frustrated.
Yeah, so the question that you are writing is written from a part. That's the part of you that needs to control the process and needs to force a resolution. That's not what this is about. And if you can sort of go towards this with more of a curiosity, right? If you can realize that you're most of the time fused with this part that you think is you, that's a real managerial part, then it'll be a lot easier to sit in the center point. When you get into these perspectives, I feel like the part of you that's that manager part is getting a little bit panicked that it's going to be doing the process wrong or isn't going to be able to get it done. And so I want you to imagine like being Jacques Cousteau. If you were Jacques Cousteau and you're about to go down into the ocean, but the whole time that you're about to go down into that water, you're like, oh God, I don't trust myself to be able to do this. I don't know whether this is going to work out for me. Like, do you see where your energy is? It's not really in this exploratory type of an energy, which is necessary when you're going into a specific part. So it's really necessary to disidentify from that aspect of you that you have confused with you, the one that even asked me that question on that paper right there. Yeah. This is weird. So read me this again. I need to hear it one more time to see if there's anything else I need to say about it.
I also have struggles to play the middle role, the guide, since I feel stuck and don't know how to find a middle way for both of these parts. I feel as if I lack awareness to come to a conclusion, and it makes me feel very frustrated.
Okay, so when you get into the true middle part, it's going to feel like this objective type of observer. It's not going to feel like it has to figure it out for these people. That's not a thing that occurs to the central self. So what will happen is there will be an interest in exposing the awareness that exists in one of these parts to the awareness that exists in the other one of these parts. So the central self might say something like, I need you to both realize that you're part of the same body. So there's no way for you guys to be juxtaposed right now and to feel good, ever, for either of you. Do you realize that? And once you bring that type of awareness to them, there starts to become this, motivation for them to see the other one's perspective. And when you expose them to each other's perspective, naturally what you see happen is that they start to come towards center themselves. It's not that you really have to do anything. It's that by providing insight to them and by watching the way they interact with each other, they start to find the middle ground, actually. It's something that comes up in you. It's not something that you have to know. It's not, I have to know all of this stuff. It's that, oh, wait a minute. That one said that what it cares about the most is connection, and this one said it also cares about connection but thinks it's going to lead to pain. Oh, well, that's weird. They both want connection. All right, so how can we find connection that feels safe? So the entire track that solution takes is totally different based off of just hearing from them both. But like I said, your main issue is that when you think you're in the central self, you're totally not. You're in a managerial part that wants control over all the parts within the spectrum so that it can maintain order, but in a forced way, not in an organic way.
I'm currently stuck at home with my mum. I am finding myself increasingly frustrated, angry, and even disgusted at certain traits of hers, including her extremely unhealthy eating habits, laziness, lack of exercise, and outright lack of self-care. How can I learn to love these parts of her/me if they currently make me feel disgusted?
You just got to see them in yourself. Even the way that you wrote it right there, like the word love for you is still being confused with positive focus. I really want this concept to just like be dropped off this side of a cliff, because love is not about positive focus. It can naturally arise as a result of practicing love, but love is simply, I recognize that in me. I take it as a part of me. That's all it is. So if you've got this incredible aversion to it, then what will have happened in your childhood is you will have been really hurt by those particular traits. And as a result of being hurt by those traits, or seeing other people be hurt by those traits, you decided they were so bad and wrong that you exiled those traits within yourself, right? And so now you're not even able to recognize those parts within you. So like, let's say you've got a religious zealot for a mother, and that hurt you really intensely as a child. You're going to exile the part of you that's a zealot. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. In fact, it probably comes out in other ways. Your zealot part may come out in terms of your atheism, or your zealot part may come out in terms of your commitment to science, or whatever else. So it's about finding that part of you that's a zealot that is mirroring within the parent. And it's not about finding positive focus towards that part. It's about intimacy. So you're going to see into that part of you, feel into that part of you, come to understand that part of you to such an extreme degree that it makes sense to you now. And when that part starts to make sense to you, you'll start to watch that resistance like ease. Not only that, you'll start to understand what needs that part has and how to meet them. And so this changes not only the way you're interacting with that part that you're now in the process of reowning, that was exiled as a result of mom, but you now know how to communicate with mom. I mean, if you understand your zealot, you understand where it comes from, you understand what it needs, you start to meet those needs, you just repeat those same steps with her in the external. Oh, wow, did you ever sign up for a nice practice for yourself? I swear this is like, it's funny, not funny, that so many people in the world right now are like stuck at home with the very people who created the trauma in them in the first place. It's like the universe isn't letting you escape from integration, is it? Oh, it's so not fun.
The more parts work I try, the more I see that I don't have free will. It's getting harder and harder, and it feels like...
Wait. Oh, God, I wish I had you guys in front of me right now. I mean, I do, but you know what I mean. I want it back and forth, because that doesn't make any sense. The more that I do parts work, the more I realize I don't have free will. I'm assuming what you mean by that is that the more that you're doing this, the more you're recognizing the takeover of parts, where they come in and they basically, all of a sudden, without even thinking, almost like reactively, this part takes over the body. I'm assuming that's what you mean by you don't have free will. Tell me if I'm wrong, but continue with that question, given that.
I mean, that was pretty much why I asked that question, because she's just really frustrated with the fact that, and is getting really angry,
Okay,
and thinking they're using it wrong, or that it's a pitfall.
No, just read the whole question.
The more parts work I try, the more I see that I don't have free will. It's getting harder, and it feels
Okay, the more I need to switch the way that you're saying this. I'm going to have you finish that sentence, but I need you to switch the way you're saying this. The more that you do parts work, the more you realize you're stuck in determinism. That does not mean you don't have free will, and those are very, very different, very, very different statements. And yes, you are realizing the degree to which you're stuck in determinism. You're realizing the degree to which all people are stuck in determinism. And that means you've stepped into awareness and free will. Okay. You know what I mean by that? Like, your first step into free will is to realize how much you don't exercise free will.
It's getting harder, and it feels like we have to try so hard just to get a little change in our lives. I'm angry. Am I using it wrong, or did I hit some pitfall?
No, you hit the reality. You guys... I've been saying this a long time, and I'm going to say it again. Awareness is the red pill in the matrix, y'all. If you take that and you swallow that damn thing, you're about to see a lot about this universe that is going to piss you the hell off. So, awareness in a world that we have created, that is created based off of determinism, is not fun. It's both amazing and shitty. You're going to become aware. It's like back in the, whatever it was, 1500s, it was just standard practice. So if somebody pissed you off, cut their head off, right? That was normal, you guys. Literally nobody had a reaction to that back then. It wasn't like, people actually watched that for entertainment. So it wasn't until people kind of awoken a little bit to be like, oh my God, that's actually really super barbaric. Today, with our awareness, we're like, So much of the way that life is, that includes the fact that you are living so much from these deterministic parts that are, created through trauma. Waking up to that is going to cause you to just be like, you're in the freaking dark ages. So it's going to make you feel like you came back from the future. The same way that you would feel if I took you back into the 1500s or even further than that. And believe me, the more where you get, the more bad that gets. But the flip side of that coin is that you're going to obviously be in the space of free will. I mean, you're going to be the kind of person that chops heads off if you realize how incredibly barbaric that is and that that's a part of you? No. So you're going to have access to these incredible levels of freedom, incredible levels of joy, incredible levels of life and being, at the same time as awareness that could make somebody want to suck their thumb and rock themselves to sleep at night, regardless of whether they're 40 or 80. So you're kind of on this little roller coaster ride. So nothing bad is happening with you. You are not doing it wrong. It's just you're waking up to determinism, which is the same thing, by the way, that even Jesus was talking about thousands of years ago when what he was teaching was free will and love. You have to see how much of what you're doing is literally just programming. It is just, it's a knee-jerk reaction that happens as a result of the trauma that fragmented your psyche. Once you have choice, that's what he was teaching, that's free will. Choice is everything. But choice doesn't necessarily mean that it's fun, right? To be in a space of awareness that puts you squarely in choice is not fun. So nothing's happening that's bad to you. You're just becoming aware. Oh, and by the way, if everybody became aware, this world would be different. And that is the goal that most of us who are in this type of a position as a teacher have today. We have the desire for people to wake up to how incredibly insane this is, to the degree that they can make the same decisions. And if they didn't make the same decisions, you would be living in a life that was conducive to human health. Was I on my soapbox there? Blake's giving me this look like.
Okay. My mind fears a lot of my own intuition when I do the what would someone who loves themselves do exercise. Any tips on doing the parts work on this situation?
Parts that are worried about decisions are always worried about consequences. So in any type of a situation where you're distrusting, I would ask the part that is distrusting. You know what I mean? And it can be quick. By the way, the better you get at this parts work, the less formalized it has to be. It's as simple as as if a meditation, closing your eyes, and you're literally just simply allowing the part of you that's distrusting to come forward and really speak. So if I was in your particular position with that one, that's what I would do in any given situation. If I'm feeling that distrust, I'd let the part of me that's in that distrust come forward and say why. And based off of the information that it shares, I then know kind of what I'm working with. And I also know what traumas need to be resolved, because a person doesn't, it's not like a kid's born terrorized of their choices, you know what I mean? No toddler's like, oh no, I'm not really sure whether I should choose to wear my boots or those shoes, because if I make the wrong, you know what I mean? We get into this because we've had trauma relative to decisions that we've made, and usually the caregivers in our life have given us extreme consequences for making a choice that didn't align with what they would have us choose. So it's about resolving a lot of those traumas. That's the completion process. On top of letting that part speak so that we can help it with its fears, the part that's distrusting. Yeah.
Teal, you said love is to take someone as a part of yourself, but how does that look practically? Can you give us some real-life examples of situations in which there's very clear difference between taking someone as a part of yourself and not taking someone as a part of yourself? So that we can understand this on a very deep level.
I'm going to bring somebody else in here then. This is why I have my handy little community. I got people that are on call so that we can do this practically. I'm hoping you do mean that you want me to show you how, the difference between taking somebody else as a part of you. Right? We're not talking about our own parts right here. Is that how you interpreted that?
For somebody else, yeah. Let's say, how would I take you as a part of myself, for example?
Okay, so let's do clear examples of how that isn't happening and how it does happen.
Okay.
Oh dear God.
Let's say at dinner I bring out a bowl of cilantro.
Oh God. Thank you. Sorry.
And I know that you can smell it a mile away, but I know that I also enjoy cilantro. So taking you as a part of myself, knowing that about you, what I can do is to either mix that in my food first before I even bring it in the room so that you can't detect it, or I have it at a different time.
And why does that feel okay to you?
Because I still get to have the cilantro.
Yeah, see? So it's, Practicing taking, this is what I mean by take somebody else as a part of you. Is something working or do you need us to stop? Okay. Taking somebody else as a part of you is just to recognize that I can't cause you pain without causing me pain. Right? Your pleasure is part of my pleasure. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, well, because you want cilantro, screw me.
Right.
That's also not taking yourself as a part. See, this is where the third option is so incredibly critical. The third option in recognizing incompatibility is so critical because it can't be an either or. In this universe where all parts are a part of one, right? I can't simply go with you and self-sacrifice and be in a state of self-love. And because you're also part of me, I can't screw you for my best interest and be in a state of self-love. Neither are possible. And with the narcissistic versus codependent strategy, this is sort of like the only two extremes that people see. Well, either I don't eat cilantro, and so it's like screw me, or like I do, and it's screw you.
Someone's got to take pain. Basically.
That's what I'm trying to, yeah. And for us to be in a space of self-love or love in general, what you call love, the human race has to evolve beyond that. So, you gave the cilantro example, and that's one that he just came up with. I didn't even have to participate in that one.
It was a recent one.
Okay, so let's think of some other ones.
Like real life ones or just any example?
I want to give them lots of examples. This person's asking for a lot
Let's
of
do
examples.
like a relationship. Let's say that like
Pretend it's me.
Okay, let's say that we're in a relationship and I just came to the awareness that I want a polyamorous relationship.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't. I want monogamy.
See, my first instinct is like, well, that's not what I want, so what am I supposed to do about this?
So the first thing I would do is understanding, right? You develop deep levels of intimacy around the concept. We have to dive, when there's this difference, we have to dive deep into why. So dive deep into why you want polyamory.
I just feel like I want to be connected to a lot more people in that way, like in a sexual way.
Why?
It's like there's like an emptiness that I feel like could be filled by that.
With just me? There's an emptiness when you're just with me? That feels great. Oh.
But you know what, like maybe by me just saying that out loud, like maybe there's something that I haven't become aware of that's causing me to want that maybe we can look at together.
Okay. So that's the first step that we're going to take. Why? Because you want to be with me, right?
Yeah, I want it to still be a we.
Okay. So the first step that we would take as a couple is we just explore that. See, but I'm not coming at him with an attitude of the only reason you want that is because you're fucked up and unhealed. So let's go heal you.
Yeah.
It's more like, all right, well, we got to understand this together. It's our job to understand this together. And he's the one initiating, well, maybe there's something there that I haven't been looking at because he used the word emptiness. So then we go look at that, right?
Yeah.
Either that reveals that it's not actually in his best interest, right?
Yeah.
Or else it reveals it really is in his best interest. And now, because I went through that process with him, I can actually see how. Now, then it's like either I get to look at myself. Is this really good for me? Let's go into like the deep reasons why or why not. Now, maybe by doing that, let's pretend that in the worst case scenario here, when we look at that, it really is good and in alignment for you. It really is not in alignment for me. That means that we're dealing with a genuine incompatibility.
Yeah.
That means that I still have to want the best for you and the best for me. We both said we want each other in our lives, right? But it means that the romantic partnership can't be there. So now it's about figuring out what that next best configuration for the relationship looks like for you and me. Does it look like we still live together? And then that's back, again, my best interest, your best interest. We're just trying to create this click, 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 click in the best way we can so that the configuration is the highest and best for both of us given the circumstance and the situation that we're facing.
Yes.
So that's another example. Let's just do other examples, maybe more easy than that one.
Okay.
Because I feel like if they take the easy ones, it'll be better. They'll be better at like applying them to these more difficult and potentially incompatible ones.
Let's say like I feel like you really want me to do all the dishes before the night's over, and I like to do them in the morning because I like to have my nights to watch movies.
All right. Well, why?
Because it feels like there's been so much that I've done all day long, and when it comes to nighttime and having to do one more thing that late, it almost feels like everything in me is turned off to do physical activity, which I perceive that as. So for me, it's like I'd rather do it when I have more energy.
Okay, well, for me, when those dishes aren't done, I'm just thinking about them all night long and I can't sleep. So when I wake up in the morning and I see them there, it's like I have to nag you, almost like I have an extra child when those dishes aren't done. So it's like it's your pressure versus my pressure.
I didn't realize you had that kind of pressure and you thought about it all night.
All night long.
Like, what comes up for you when you
I
think
don't
about
trust
it?
that it's actually going to get done.
Oh, okay. So you don't think I'll actually do them in the morning?
No.
Okay. Well, would that change based on me actually doing that? Like if you see that there's an established pattern where I actually do them in the morning? Is it worth giving it a try?
Yeah, I could give it a try, but I feel like there's examples in your life where you've said you're going to do things and you don't do them. So I feel like it's a pattern.
Okay. I guess I feel like I want to commit to that, but I also understand what you're saying and in other ways in my life where I haven't done that. So maybe we can look into hiring somebody that does this for us or asking somebody else in the community to see if maybe that might be a
We
task.
can't afford it.
Dang. Well, the thing is I want to get them done. It's just, it feels bad to me to do them at that time of the day, and I'm trying to figure out how we could still get them done in a way that we both feel good about.
Okay, so if you can feel into us right now, what's happening is we're starting to polarize because I'm just fighting for me right now. Can you feel that? If you're watching, this is how people get into trouble. I'm only fighting for me. I'm not fighting for his best interest right now. And he's actually much more, if you feel the energy, much more interested in my best interest. So right now I get to stop myself and feel like, am I just fighting for my way right now? Well, that's interesting because I can't do that in a relationship because he's a part of me, right? Especially in a relationship, like we like to, quantify it here. So I have to stop right now and remind myself I can't actually just screw him or play a zero-sum game like I'm playing where I get to win right now and have this relationship go okay. So I have to actually take that in. I don't want to do it at that time of day.
What if we went and, I know we can't afford to hire somebody to clean for us all the time, but what if we can find like a used dishwasher? Because I feel like I'd have a lot easier time loading something in a dishwasher than I would actually sitting and doing them all by hand. Maybe that can be like a small investment that pays off over time for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine, but what if somebody already has a dishwasher?
You keep on going with ideas.
See, you're going with the ideas, but you're also like at the same time as doing that, you're also like referencing what is my resistance to this. You see, because a lot of couples get into this thing where like they get into arguments about the dishwasher when it has nothing to do with that. And like if I'm fighting for me because it doesn't have to do with the dishes, really. It has to do with the fact that I've watched you not follow through. So then the whole conversation isn't about the dishes anymore.
Yeah.
This is what awareness is all about. Oh, the conversation really needs to be about the fact that I have a lack of trust that you're going to follow through, and so I feel like all the pressure is on me to get things done.
Okay. Well, I feel like with that, then we can look at the areas where you think I'm doing that currently and find out why I'm doing that.
And your willingness to do that is why.
Because I don't want you to hurt.
That's exactly why I'm doing it for you. Okay, so you see how that totally, based off of doing this, it just totally took a whole different turn. And then it's about what are the ways and why does that hurt me? So he would go, if we switched topics, he would want to deeply understand why that's so painful for me when he doesn't follow through. And if he took me as part of himself, he wouldn't want me to have that experience anymore.
No.
Any more than, I would want him to feel, I don't want you to feel like I'm your mother. I know you don't like that, like I'm a naggy mom and you just can't be trusted, that sucks too. So,
Exactly.
So then usually the solution here, that's that taking each other as a part of ourselves that creates that resolution when there's any kind of polarity, would usually come in this particular circumstance on his side, because it's about, if he doesn't want to be controlled, then he's got to be the one to choose to step up, right? And then he's going to communicate in what ways he's going to step up. And then we can even agree upon together, well, what would make me feel better is if I had like a clear course of action I get to take if you don't.
Right, like a consequence if you say you're going to do
Something.
one
And
thing,
I don't
but
want it to be a
follow
consequence
through.
I'm opposing. It has to be a consequence you're imposing for you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's come up with one. let's say, well, I'm also like interested in like looking at, maybe we can look at how my day is structured to where I'm like not having energy at night to do that.
Okay.
And I can figure out maybe by starting my day differently that can actually be fine. But let's say that I say I'm going to do that and I don't, and then you wake up in the morning and your like worst nightmare came true. There's a thing full of dishes, right? And then it feels like all the pressure's on you.
Yes. Okay, so you guys are kind of getting how this is going, right? The whole thing is that, like, what I'm doing by considering him as part of me, or anybody externally as part of me, all that means is that I have some degree of ownership over the way that it's feeling.
Yeah.
That we're not two separate entities in two separate universes. That, like, everything that I do has an equal and opposite reaction, and I can't screw him without screwing me. So you start to take actions to understand, to listen, to see into, to feel into, to really grasp what this being needs and what its motives are in order to know how to react around that thing. Now, if it's not a specific relationship you're dealing with, let's say that it's Donald Trump, right? You don't have a direct relationship with him, but he's in the world, and I'm saying take somebody as part of yourself. Then that is as simple as you find the part of you that is him. Now, how can I take that part in? How can I understand it? How can I feel it? How can I see into it in a way where I start to meet the needs of that part of myself? And based off of doing that, that changes the way that I interact with the world itself. It's why, like, if somebody, for example, has integrated their criminal, they won't have an issue talking to somebody or dealing with somebody who's in that criminal space. They'll understand the mindset. They may even take precautions for their household. I'm not saying that, like, if a criminal breaks in their house, they're going to be like, oh my God, I love you. No, it's that, like, there isn't that same charge and resistance and polarity happening. And so they take loving actions. It's like, I got a better example. Let's say that you're taking a shark as part of yourself, right? Let's say that I've got a shark in front of me, and I've got, like, a beloved fish in front of me. Loving something does not mean, in the physical realm, because we are in separate physical bodies, in the physical realm doesn't mean that you just have to all get along and it's all about inclusion. Because if I do that, I'm going to put the fish in with the shark. What's going to happen?
It's going to get eaten.
See, my love for the shark means I got to see it, feel it, understand it. I got to do all of those things. And if I'm doing that, I understand this kind of a bloodlust that might exist in this creature for the fish. So I'm not going to put them together because of love, you see. It's because I'm taking that in as a part of me and its best interest, and the other one in as a part of my best interest, that I start to make the decision now to keep them in separate barrels. So a lot of times when we don't understand, what I've been trying to show you, what it means to take the other as a part of yourself here, it's what makes it so that we love to project what we might do, and it's definitely not what we would do if we really got as deep as we could into the seeing, feeling, hearing, understanding of a certain being. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, then what I can do in that situation is be like, okay, let's say I'm going to change my day, I'm going to have energy at night, but let's say that we wake up, then I can just be like, okay, I know we can't afford to hire somebody, but I'll pay for it.
Now you're stepping up.
And then we go from there.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
I find that practicing self-love by using these tools brings awareness to the fact that I don't love myself and that I'm trying to get away from myself. Would it be more loving to just be with myself, even the parts that feel completely insignificant and worthless, without trying to escape this feeling? Are those parts not getting the message that there's something wrong with
Yes.
them?
In your particular circumstance, the work that you're doing is giving the part of you the message that you're doing it because you have to be fixed, not because you want your well-being. So for you, it's really important to understand there are two different motives with which any type of work is done, honestly. Let's say that you're an addict, right?
Okay.
This is a part of me in your scenario, you see, instead of somebody external, but I'm going to pretend this is a part of me, right? Let's say you're an addict.
Okay.
I can take you to rehab, buy you that book, sign you up for that course on addictions from a space of, you need to be fixed. Like, this is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking me up. It's fucking everyone up. Like, this is not okay. That's a resistance. Do you feel that?
Do you want me to answer that as this part?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you're not even looking at me at all or even trying to understand what I actually need. I feel like you're trying to guess what I need.
Exactly.
And what I actually need is just closeness with you.
There. See, so like, Or now, if I'm like, okay, that's I'm doing this because I want to be close to you. I'm doing this because I want you to get your needs met.
Okay.
Then that makes that, like, you might even take the same step. I'm buying you this book because I want you to feel good. I'm getting you this course because I want you to feel good. I'm sitting here and putting the energy into this because I want you to feel good. I hurt when you hurt. How different is that energy?
It's different. It still feels like an opening to where I can still have a discussion with you, though.
Yeah.
So it's like, I see that you want me to feel good and it hurts you when I hurt, but what I need you to see is that there's different things that actually make an impact that help me to feel good that might not be the things that you think they are.
Exactly. So this is why it's so important to, like, really feel into those parts. Yes, like you just said, those parts don't feel like you're doing these things for the right reasons. And to listen into them is to actually get the accurate feedback about what they're really needing, which is probably the opposite of what you think. So...
What do you mean when you tell us to caretake our fear like a crying child? And how does fear relate to self-love? Are there different kinds of fear?
Here's how fear relates to self-love. We have to look at there being two basic movements within the universe at large. The movement of away and towards. To love is towards energy. It's I include you. Fear is the exact opposite of the frequency of love. To disinclude you. It's the opposite. It's separation. That's what fear is. So if you imagine somebody who's in a state of fear, right? Imagine them sitting in a circle, and they start to push everything away and outside the circle. Pretty soon they're alone inside that circle. And the same goes for if they're inside the circle and they push everything that's inside the circle away, suddenly they're alone outside the circle and everyone else is inside. So it is, by nature, it is about separation. You can't be a person who does that in the external without it also mirroring in the internal. This is something that I'm wishing people would understand about the fractal-based universe. See, if I'm afraid, for example, of anger, right? I'm afraid of this person who's angry. I'm going to push that person away. I can't do that without simultaneously pushing the part of me that's angry away internally. So I actually create a fragmentation on the internal level. I am disincluding that part of me inside, and that is the opposite of self-love. See, we love to think about love, of course, in terms of positive focus, which is what I don't like, because if we look at it that way, it's like, oh, I just have to like all of me. No. What I'm going for is for you to include all of you. And fear is the opposite of to include all parts of you. It is to disinclude the parts of you that you fear, right? That you have that negative reaction to. You have a negative judgment to. There's that push away reaction to. To fear is to push away. So it intimately relates to self-love because you're pushing parts of yourself away when you're in that state of fear. It's just that most of us aren't really understanding that we're a fractal of the greater universe, and so when we push something away, like I'm afraid of KKK members, for example. We don't realize there's an internal part that is that KKK member, actually, that we're pushing away at the same time, and therefore doing the opposite of self-love too. Was there any more to that particular question than that? Oh, how do we caretake the fear like a crying child?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you're feeling fear, right, so you're pushing a part away, or you're pushing the part of yourself that is fearful away, because, by the way, a part that is scared, if you grew up in a circumstance where fear was not okay, then even the part that feels vulnerable and wants to push away, you have to include as part of yourself. And so we have the tendency to push that part that has the tendency of pushing away. You see how it compounds the whole situation. So that vulnerable part has to be taken in, shown how to do the exact opposite. And what you notice when you bring those parts in that are in that space of fear is this intense vulnerability, which makes it more like a child. I'm using this example not because these parts are children, some of them are, but because a human being has a more easy time understanding caretaking relative to children, and would definitely not do the same thing to an afraid child as it does to an afraid adult. If a little kid is like, chances are that we're going to, pick it up. Chances are we're going to try to figure out what it needs, try to rationalize with the child's mind so that it comes out of that state of fear, rather than be like, oh, shut the fuck up, just drink a beer, or something like that. So I was using the example of caretaking your fear or the part of you that is afraid like a child so that it would bring people into the right energy with which to deal with these parts of themselves that are pushing things away, right? Or the parts of themselves that they push away. Is that making kind of sense?
Yes.
Speaking of children, lots of questions on kids. And this one kind of encapsulates a few. My daughter is literally every part of me that I've rejected disowned, and I am so triggered by her. I am trying to process through my triggers and do my internal work as I can, while also trying to be present and respond appropriately with my daughter. Sometimes I can manage this, sometimes I can't. I feel like I'm sending her the message that I'm not stable and can't be reliable in how I respond to situations. That sends me down a shame spiral because as much as I am triggered by her, I want so badly to work on this and for her to feel loved and supported. How can I manage both my internal self-love work and my external relationship better?
They're one and the same. The way that I would deal with this with you is literally the following. I would communicate to her exactly what you just said in that paper. That's everything. So the first thing you're going to say to her, because she, I would assume, is the age where you can do that, is to say, look, this is what suppression is. This is what I did. I suppressed all these parts of myself. I judged them. Now you've come along in my life to help me to integrate them, and I'm doing a very poor job of it sometimes, but this is what I'm doing with my life. As my commitment is to reintegrate those parts of myself. And then that's got to be your actual commitment. So one of the most powerful tools you can have as a parent is to, once you understand how to do parts work, is to go into the part of you that is your child. Now, that can be, by the way, just like I told you that parts can happen kind of like a big container with smaller containers inside of it. It can either be, for some parents, one part, or it can be like that, where you've got the part of me that is my daughter has a lot of subparts, and that's going to be the case with you specifically. So in that particular circumstance, you can always go into just that main container, the part of me that is, fill in the blank with her name, right? Or you can do that relative to every situation she's pissing you off with. So I choose to become the part of me that is my daughter when she, fill in the blank with whatever behavior you're hating. And once you integrate that aspect and deal with it, like I said, what happens is that you develop the awareness around what those needs are. And then it becomes very easy with how to relate to your child, or how to even explain to them something when they need to be the one to make the change. It's that you're not going to come at them with the same attitude, you're not going to come at them with the same strategy, you're not going to come at them with the same information. You're going to come with a totally different understanding. That means you can communicate to your child in a way where they make an adjustment that needs to be made. And it's easy to get them to see now, because of how you're communicating or how you're dealing with them, that that needs to happen. Or you're the one that makes the adjustment. All of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, the only reason that I was doing that is because my dad did this with me, which made me feel like it was wrong. And now that I've reowned this part of myself, yeah, I don't really care whether they're doing this thing or not. That's total BS. So it's all about that. Reowning the part of me that is them in any given situation. By the way, this works for relationships too, for those of you that are in difficult relationships. I was working with a woman who had a husband who was difficult's an understatement of the century. What we did was that every single time that he came up with one of these, one of 80 behaviors that like were just sending her over the roof, every time like a different layer. She'd say, okay, I choose to become the part of me in this moment that is, fill in the blank with his name. And we did that so often that she changed the entire way that she was interacting with him. She started to realize, actually, in this particular circumstance, that the majority of the reason that she was actually tied into that relationship is because she hadn't reowned those aspects, and when she did, she chose actually to leave. All those parts of herself chose to leave the relationship. But I've had it go exactly the opposite way as well, working with people with this way, where once they reown the aspect, all of a sudden it starts shifting into this like relationship they've always been wanting to have for years. And so, yeah, it can go either way. But that's the way to deal with that. Oh, I like this one. God. I want to do family workshops, you guys. If they ever allow me to have workshops again, I would love to be doing like intergenerational, really, and even relationship workshops where I'm dealing with this type of thing.
Wow, that would be amazing.
It's so cool that parents are aware enough to even ask a question like that.
Can you? Yeah.
Because like if my parents ever asked the question that you did, whoever asked that question, I would be on the floor. It's just so cool to me to see that that's even an option that kids are going to have, because I don't think I'll ever have that, to be honest.
Yes.
As we wrap up this live stream today, I was just wondering if you have anything to say about self-love, what the world is going through right now, people being in containment, the opportunity that they have to work with, like.
Okay, so I have to be honest with you guys. I'm an advocate of awareness. Awareness is to become aware of all aspects, and we have a universe that has got polarity as a part of itself. That means you've got positive and negative. This means I'm a real advocate for really recognizing the positive of what's going on in the world, but I don't want people to do that to the detriment of realizing what is happening in the world right now. So it's like I feel myself kind of get a little bit of an upchuck reflex whenever I, get on these types of things lately, and I'm saying things like, "Oh my God, you have a wonderful opportunity." Because it's not the full truth of what's going on here, you guys. This is not a wonderful opportunity. What is happening right now, I have no words for you about what is about to happen here within the world in terms of the changes and the control measures that are going to be put in place to try to justify preventing this in the future. Also, a lot of the dynamics that are going on behind the scenes as to why this even occurred in the first place. So what we have to reckon with right now is this is not a blessing, you guys. What is occurring right now is not a blessing. It is a manifestation, right? This is a manifestation of exactly the damage and the trauma that has happened within the individual physical human. Our relationship with the world. And you will suffer because of this. You will. And if you don't recognize that, you're really got blinders on right now. At the same time, every single one of these super damaging circumstances opens doors. So it's about recognizing both. A major door has been closed within humanity here, and a big door is going to be opened within humanity here. And I'm wanting you, instead of to be in this, picture perfect, oh my God, just look at the positive. I'm not an advocate of that. I'm an awareness teacher. I'm an advocate of looking at both. So the positive side of this story of what's about to happen here is that never before have people been so trapped with themselves. Like, to be honest with you, a lot of these coping mechanisms you don't even have access to anymore. If you're in a situation where you've got to stay at home, you can't engage in those activities, then I've never seen an opportunity quite like this, where the universe seems to be trapping people within their own conflict, internal conflict. And it's even more intense when they're trapped with their families. Because your family were the ones that created a lot of these fragments, and you weren't they. So now you're suddenly stuck with them in a house, and you can't avoid it anymore. So the opportunity here is to get very, very clear, not only on what conflicts, internal conflicts, that we have to resolve, and quickly, because it's not an option to delay it anymore. And the opportunity is to decide, when the entire system collapses, what do we want this to look like on the other side? I mean, when a whole house is blown over, what do you want a new house to look like? Are you going to rebuild the old house? Or are you going to build a new house? What do you want to maintain from the old? What do you want to come in from the new? And how much are you willing to give up? Which is a big, big question that we're going to ask here. Because if I'm going to be completely honest with you right now, the wave of the future is going to be prejudice based off of health. Health is going to become the new form of discrimination on this planet. You're walking into a world where, in order to engage in your most basic human liberties, including connection, there will be conditions for that. And those conditions are going to be what benefits the people who hold that control in the first place. So it's a very important time of questioning just how much you're willing to give up for your basic needs. Most especially the need for connection, which is heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking on a human level, or on a universal level. Mankind has been thrown into a mirror construct where it sees its reflection so clearly that if you miss it, you probably won't live through it. So this is a sad time for me, and also a time where mankind gets to define itself. So that's what I would say to you. It never has been more important for you to integrate your splits. Because you are in a position where some of your internal splits may just reflect in the external in a way that kills humanity. I'm a great lover of freedom, as much as I am a great lover of connection. So, this is what the war is on today. And I'm hoping that people see through that instead of tell themselves the story that this is just about a virus and that things will go back to normal, because it never will.
Thank you, Teal.
Is it on? Okay.
Wow.
What?
It's just, I don't know. I love it when you keep it real, you know?
Well, what did people